Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange. Stephen Strange was born in November 1930 to Eugene and Beverly Strange in Philadelphia. He grew up to become one of the most brilliant neurosurgeons in the world, working in New York City. However, success made Strange incredibly arrogant and selfish. He only treated patients who could afford his expensive fees and cared more about money and fame than helping people. One night while driving, Strange got into a terrible car accident. The crash severely damaged the nerves in both his hands. His fingers trembled uncontrollably after the accident, making it impossible for him to perform surgery ever again. This devastated Strange because his surgical skills defined his entire identity and supported his wealthy lifestyle. Strange spent every penny he had searching for ways to heal his hands. He tried every experimental treatment and visited countless doctors, but nothing worked. Medical science could not repair the nerve damage. Eventually, Strange ran out of money and became desperate. He heard rumors about a mysterious healer called the Ancient One, who lived high in the mountains of Tibet. With nothing left to lose, Strange traveled to the Himalayas to find this legendary figure. He hoped the Ancient One could magically fix his hands so he could return to his old life as a surgeon. Strange found the Ancient One at a place called Kamar Taj in Tibet. The Ancient One was the Sorcerer Supreme, the most powerful mystic protector of Earth's dimension. The Sorcerer Supreme title represented the primary defender against magical and mystical threats to the planet. The Ancient One had lived for centuries using magic to extend his life. When Strange demanded that the Ancient One heal his hands, the elderly mystic refused. Instead, the Ancient One offered to teach Strange the mystic arts. Strange angrily rejected this offer at first because he only wanted his surgical career back, not magic lessons. However, Strange discovered that Baron Mordo, another student at Kamar Taj, secretly planned to kill the Ancient One and unleash the demon Dormammu to conquer Earth. Mordo used spells to prevent Strange from warning the Ancient One or leaving. This dangerous situation forced Strange to shed his selfish nature. He realized magic represented something far more important than his ruined surgical career. Strange agreed to become the Ancient One's student so he could learn to fight evil and protect others. The Ancient One had known about Mordo's treachery all along. He deliberately let Strange discover the plot to test what kind of person Strange truly was. Impressed by Strange's decision to help despite the danger, the Ancient One freed him from Mordo's spells and began training him properly. The Ancient One had actually planned for Strange to become his successor for a long time. Before Strange ever arrived at Kamar Taj, the Ancient One knew through mystical visions that Stephen Strange possessed the potential to become the next Sorcerer Supreme. The Ancient One taught Strange to tap into innate mystic powers within himself and the world around him. Strange also learned to invoke powers from mystical beings called principalities, who resided in their own dimensions. These beings included Dormammu, Satanish, and the Vishanti. The Vishanti were a group of 3 powerful entities who granted magic users temporary access to their powers through spells. After years of dedicated study, Strange mastered both mystical and martial arts. During his training, Strange faced a test against death itself. As a reward for passing this test, death granted Strange ageless life, meaning he would not die from natural causes or old age. An ankh-shaped mark appeared on his forehead that would only show when his life was in serious danger. Baron Mordo left Kamar Taj to seek greater power elsewhere and became Strange's first major enemy. Mordo hated Strange for becoming the Ancient One's chosen successor instead of him. The two rivals clashed frequently over the years. Strange's greatest and most dangerous enemy became Dormammu, a demonic entity from another dimension called the Dark Dimension. Dormammu ruled over the Dark Dimension as its tyrannical god and master. The Dark Dimension existed outside normal space, containing even more dimensions than regular reality. Time worked differently there, with gravity weaker and space more fragile. Dormammu had conquered countless other dimensions and absorbed them into his Dark Dimension. He craved more power and wanted to conquer Earth's dimension to add it to his realm. Dormammu commanded armies of servants, including creatures called the Mindless Ones, who were powerful but lacked intelligence or free will. Strange traveled to the Dark Dimension to confront Dormammu directly. They engaged in mystical combat, with Dormammu proving far more powerful. However, during their battle, Dormammu accidentally weakened the magical barriers containing the mindless ones. These creatures threatened to destroy Dormammu's subjects. Despite being enemies, Strange helped Dormammu rebuild the barriers by channeling power from his amulet into Dormammu. This act saved innocent lives in the Dark Dimension. Indebted to Strange for his help, Dormammu agreed to end their fight. In return, Strange demanded that Dormammu make a binding magical vow to never enter Earth's realm again and to not harm a woman named Clea. Clea was Dormammu's niece and the daughter of Dormammu's sister Umar. Clea had helped Strange during his time in the Dark Dimension and eventually became Strange's student and romantic partner. Over many storylines, Strange and Clea developed a deep relationship, though her responsibilities as eventual ruler of the Dark Dimension and his duties as Sorcerer Supreme often forced them apart. After many years of study and adventures, the monster Shuma-Gorath attempted to invade Earth by using the Ancient One's mind as a gateway. The Ancient One told Strange to kill his physical body rather than allow Shuma-Gorath passage to Earth. Strange reluctantly obeyed his mentor's final command. With the Ancient One's death, Strange inherited the title and responsibilities of Sorcerer Supreme. The Ancient One's consciousness survived after his body died, merging with the cosmic entity Eternity. He could still appear in astral form to guide Strange when needed. Strange had achieved in mere decades the skill and power that took the Ancient One almost 2 centuries to develop. As the new Sorcerer Supreme, Strange moved to New York City and established his base of operations in a mansion at 177 Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village. This building became known as the Sanctum Sanctorum, Strange's mystical headquarters. Strange lived there with his faithful friend and assistant Wong, who served as his valet and helped maintain the sanctum. Strange acquired many powerful mystical objects over his career. The Eye of Agamotto was a powerful amulet created by Agamotto, the first Sorcerer Supreme. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, the Eye contained the Time Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones that controlled fundamental aspects of reality. In the comics, the Eye of Agamotto possessed different powers. It could see through illusions and lies, negate evil magic, and detect mystical threats anywhere in the world. Strange also possessed the Cloak of Levitation, an enchanted garment that allowed him to fly. The Book of the Vishanti contained vast knowledge of white magic and beneficial spells. Strange accumulated many other artifacts, tomes, and talismans that helped him defend Earth from supernatural threats. Strange's powers came from drawing upon mystical energies from various sources. He could invoke the power of the Vishanti and other mystical entities through carefully worded spells. Strange mastered many forms of magic, including dimensional travel, astral projection, where his spirit left his body, energy manipulation, creating protective shields, and casting a wide variety of spells for different purposes. He could open portals to other dimensions and travel between realities. Strange saw and experienced things across multiple dimensions that fundamentally changed his body. He developed abilities to perceive threats that normal humans could not detect. However, these experiences also warped him physically over time, making it difficult for him to eat normal food in some storylines. Strange lost and regained his title as Sorcerer Supreme multiple times throughout his career. On one occasion, he refused to fight a war on behalf of the Vishanti, and they stripped him of the title. Strange had to find new sources of magical power, including dangerous chaos magic. He eventually regained the title through various trials and quests. During another storyline, a powerful magic user from another dimension named Salome challenged Strange and took the title from him. Strange went into seclusion, while Salome gathered followers to help her rule Earth. He created magical constructs based on himself to handle his affairs, while he prepared to reclaim his position. Strange also lost his Sorcerer Supreme title temporarily when the trickster god Loki tricked him into handing over the mantle. Loki wanted to test Strange and prepare him for greater threats by forcing him to break rules and push his boundaries. Each time Strange lost the title, he worked to earn it back through his dedication to protecting Earth. Strange joined various superhero teams throughout his career. He was a founding member of the Defenders alongside Hulk, Namor, and Silver Surfer. The Defenders operated as a non-team that came together when major threats arose rather than maintaining a permanent roster. Strange also joined the Illuminati, a secret group of influential heroes including Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, Namor, and Professor X. The Illuminati made difficult decisions behind closed doors that affected the entire Marvel Universe. Strange represented the mystical perspective in this group. He later became a member of the Avengers as well, using his magical abilities to help Earth's mightiest heroes fight threats that required both physical and mystical solutions. Many dangerous villains opposed Strange over the years beyond Dormammu and Baron Mordo. Nightmare ruled over the Dimension of Dreams and tormented people through their nightmares. Umar, Dormammu's sister, sought power in the Dark Dimension and frequently clashed with Strange. Shumagorath was an ancient demon from another dimension who wanted to conquer Earth. The demon Satanish tried to corrupt Strange and steal his soul through dark bargains. The mystical villain Kalu, an old rival of the Ancient One, possessed immense magical power. Strange faced these and countless other supernatural threats as Sorcerer Supreme, standing as Earth's primary defense against magical dangers that other heroes could not handle. During one major storyline called The Death of Doctor Strange, someone murdered Strange, leaving Earth without its Sorcerer Supreme to defend it. This storyline explored what would happen if Strange died, and who would protect the planet from mystical threats. In another significant arc, an army called the Empiricul invaded Earth and destroyed almost all magic in the world. Strange and his allies desperately searched for any remaining magical artifacts. They found the Ancient One's skull, which still contained magic. Strange ground it into dust and used it to blind the Empiricul's leader, helping to defeat the invasion and restore magic to Earth. Strange appeared in multiple alternate realities and timeline variations. In one dark alternate universe, shown in the What If animated series, Strange's obsession with saving his girlfriend Christine Palmer from death led him to absorb countless mystical beings to gain enough power to reverse time. This corrupted him into a being called Strange Supreme, whose actions accidentally destroyed his entire universe. This showed how Strange's determination and power could become dangerous if not tempered by wisdom and restraint. Throughout all his adventures, Doctor Strange remained Earth's mystical protector, standing guard against threats from other dimensions, demons seeking to invade our reality, evil sorcerers hungry for power, and cosmic entities that endangered existence itself. His journey from selfish surgeon to selfless sorcerer supreme demonstrated that true power came not from skill or knowledge alone, but from the willingness to sacrifice personal desires to protect others. Strange continued to learn, grow, and defend Earth as the master of the mystic arts, proving himself worthy of the title Sorcerer Supreme through countless battles against impossible odds. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Thanos. Thanos was born different from everyone else on his home, the moon called Titan. His parents were both Eternals, a race of powerful beings created by cosmic gods known as Celestials. His father was named Alars, also called Mentor, and his mother was Suisan. When Thanos was born, his mother tried to kill him immediately. She looked at her newborn baby and saw something terrible. Unlike other Eternals who looked beautiful and perfect, baby Thanos had purple skin, a large chin, and unusual features. He carried something called Deviant Syndrome, a genetic condition that made him look like the Deviants, who were the ugly and violent cousins of the Eternals. The doctors had to sedate Suisan to stop her from killing her own child. Her instinct turned out to be right in a horrible way, but not for the reason she thought. As a young boy on Titan, Thanos was actually very gentle and kind. He was the smartest student in his school, far more intelligent than any other child. He was also a pacifist, which means he believed violence was wrong and refused to hurt anyone. Because of his strange appearance, other children avoided him at first. He mostly played alone or with his brother Eros, who looked normal and handsome. But eventually, a group of children approached him and became his friends despite how he looked. Thanos was also talented at art and drawing. He seemed like a strange-looking boy who just wanted to be normal and fit in. Everything changed when a girl at his school began talking to him. She told him about a cave she liked to visit. Thanos went to explore the cave with his new friends. While they were inside, rocks collapsed and trapped them. After 3 days of digging through the rubble, Thanos escaped. But when he got out, he discovered that lizards living in the cave had eaten his friends right down to the bones. The people of Titan suspected that Thanos had actually murdered his friends, though this was not true. The mysterious girl who had told him about the cave convinced him to go back and kill all the lizards as revenge. This was Thanos' first act of killing. The girl was not actually a regular student. She was Death herself, the cosmic being who represents the end of all life in the universe. Death appeared to Thanos as a young girl because she was interested in him. She saw darkness inside him and wanted to watch it grow. Throughout his childhood and teenage years, Death stayed close to Thanos as his only friend and companion. She encouraged him to move from killing lizards to dissecting larger animals. He believed he was conducting scientific experiments to gain knowledge, but Death was slowly guiding him toward murder. Eventually, Thanos began killing other Eternals from his school, starting with 2 teenagers. He was falling in love with Death, but she would not accept his love unless he fully embraced his violent nature. When Thanos finally killed his own mother, Suisan, Death accepted his advances. Her manipulation had worked perfectly. As an adult, Thanos left Titan and joined a group of space pirates as their navigator. He traveled across the galaxy to many different planets. During this time, he tried desperately to be normal. He had many girlfriends and wives from different alien species. He fathered many children, hoping that love and family would make him feel complete and happy, but he felt nothing for any of them. The captain of his pirate crew eventually got tired of Thanos being too passive and weak, so the captain attacked and nearly killed him. When Thanos woke up, he had killed the captain without remembering it and taken control of the crew. He returned to Titan to visit his mother's grave, and Death appeared to him again as a grown woman. She told him that if he truly wanted to be with her, he needed to prove that he belonged only to her. Thanos went to every planet where he had lovers and children. He murdered all of his own children and their mothers to prove his devotion to Death. This transformation completed his journey into becoming the Mad Titan. Thanos possessed incredible powers even before he enhanced them with technology. As a mutant Eternal with deviant genes, he was far stronger than normal Eternals. His strength was greater than beings like Thor and possibly even the Hulk. He could lift over 100 tons without effort. His body was nearly invulnerable, able to withstand attacks that would destroy planets. He could survive in space without air, food, or water. He was functionally immortal, unable to die from aging or disease. Thanos could also manipulate cosmic energy, shooting powerful blasts from his hands or eyes that could knock down the strongest heroes. He had telepathic powers, able to read minds and control others. He could sense events happening in distant star systems. Thanos even had the ability to possess other people's bodies, though using his power would eventually kill the host. But perhaps Thanos' most dangerous weapon was his mind. He was a super genius, one of the smartest beings in the entire universe. His intelligence matched the brilliant scientist Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. Thanos created technology far more advanced than anything on Earth. He studied science, genetics, time travel, mysticism, and cosmic artifacts. He used his knowledge to make himself even more powerful through bionic enhancements and magical techniques. He created android clones of himself called Thanosi to help him plan strategies. He was also a master fighter, trained in combat styles from across the universe. Thanos combined his incredible strength, cosmic powers, scientific genius, and fighting skills to become one of the most feared beings in existence. The Nova Corps, an intergalactic police force, classified him as a Category 1 life ender with a universal threat level. Thanos assembled a huge army of spaceships and villains. His goal was to gain enough power to impress Death and make her love him. He learned about a powerful object called the Cosmic Cube, which could alter reality and grant wishes. Thanos seized control of the cube and commanded it to give him control over the universe. The Cosmic Cube transformed him into a godlike being. He battled the Avengers and Captain Marvel, but Thanos made a mistake by carelessly throwing away the cube, thinking he had drained all its power. Captain Marvel struck the cube and wished for the universe to return to normal. Thanos lost his godlike powers and was defeated. However, Death later brought him back to life because she needed him for a special task. Death told Thanos that there was a cosmic imbalance in the universe. More beings were alive than had ever died before, and this upset the natural balance. Death wanted Thanos to fix this problem. Thanos decided the solution was to kill half of all living beings in the universe. To accomplish this massive task, he needed ultimate power. He set out to collect 6 powerful objects called the Infinity Gems, also known as Infinity Stones in later stories. Each gem controlled a fundamental aspect of existence: time, space, mind, soul, power, and reality. When all 6 gems were placed together on a special glove called the Infinity Gauntlet, the wielder became almost like a god with complete control over the universe. Thanos succeeded in gathering all 6 Infinity Gems in a storyline called The Infinity Gauntlet, written by Jim Starlin and drawn by George Perez and Ron Lim. With the completed Infinity Gauntlet on his hand, Thanos became the most powerful being in existence. He could do absolutely anything he wanted just by thinking about it. He proved his power by creating a living shrine to Death and destroying several stars. Then, to show Death how much he loved her, Thanos raised his hand and snapped his fingers. In that single instant, half of all living beings in the entire universe simply vanished. Trillions of people, aliens, animals, and creatures across countless planets disappeared. Superheroes like Spider-Man, Black Panther, and many Avengers turned to dust and died. Entire civilizations lost half their populations in a second. The surviving heroes of Earth assembled to stop Thanos. Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock, the remaining Avengers, and many others united. Even cosmic beings like Galactus, Eternity, and other abstract entities joined the battle. Thanos fought them all and defeated every single one. He imprisoned the cosmic beings and crushed Earth's heroes with ease. Captain America was the last hero standing, refusing to surrender even though Thanos could kill him instantly. Thanos actually showed respect for Captain America's bravery and determination, but Death still would not speak to Thanos or show him affection. The problem was that by possessing the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos had become superior to Death herself, and she could not communicate with someone above her in cosmic power. During the final battle, Thanos' granddaughter Nebula, who had been tortured by Thanos and left as a living corpse, managed to steal the Infinity Gauntlet from his hand. Nebula used the gauntlet to reverse everything that had happened in the last 24 hours, bringing back everyone who had died from the snap. Eventually, Adam Warlock gained possession of the Infinity Gauntlet. The story showed that while Thanos was brilliant and powerful, his obsession with death and his need for approval made him flawed, and ultimately led to his defeat. This storyline became one of the most famous comic book events ever published and later inspired the movies Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame. Thanos' origin story was told in detail in a comic miniseries called Thanos Rising, written by Jason Aaron and illustrated by Simone Bianchi in 2013. This story showed how Death had manipulated Thanos since childhood, appearing to him as a girl and slowly corrupting him. It revealed that Thanos was not born evil. He was actually kind, gentle, smart, and artistic as a boy. But Death groomed him, encouraged his violent tendencies, and rejected his love until he became a mass murderer. The story showed the tragedy of how someone who wanted nothing more than to be loved and accepted was twisted into becoming a monster. Thanos murdered his friends, his family, his children, and eventually millions across the universe, all because Death convinced him this was the only way she would love him. Thanos' philosophical beliefs made him unique among villains. In the comic books, he was described as the ultimate nihilist. Nihilism is a philosophy that believes nothing truly matters and that life has no inherent meaning or value. Thanos was created based on the Freudian concept of Thanatos, which is the death drive that exists in human psychology. His creator, writer, and artist Jim Starlin came up with the idea during a psychology class. Thanos believed in death and destruction, not just as actions, but as a cosmic truth. He worshipped death literally and figuratively. He saw himself as an agent of the inevitable end of all things. Yet paradoxically, he also believed his actions created balance in the universe. By killing vast numbers of beings, he thought he was serving a greater purpose and restoring natural order. Throughout his existence, Thanos sought ultimate power multiple times. Beyond the Infinity Gauntlet, he once obtained the Heart of the Universe, an artifact even more powerful than the Infinity Gems. With this power, Thanos accidentally destroyed the entire universe because he could not control it properly. In perhaps the first moment of genuine remorse in his life, Thanos used the heart of the universe to restore the universe to existence, fixing his catastrophic mistake. He also created an offspring with Death called the Rot, a being that devoured everything living and dead. Thanos and Death had to work together to destroy the Rot before it ended all of existence. Thanos' relationship with Deadpool created an unusual love triangle. Death became interested in Deadpool, the mercenary, with a healing factor that constantly brought him close to death. Whenever Deadpool nearly died, he met Death in the space between life and death, and the two formed a bond. Seeing Death pay attention to Deadpool made Thanos furious with jealousy. Thanos cursed Deadpool with eternal life, ensuring Deadpool could never truly die and therefore could never be with Death. This curse of immortality was meant to be a fate worse than death for Deadpool, keeping him forever separated from the one being who showed him affection. In more recent stories, Thanos was revealed to have been born on Titan when his parents, both Eternals, had a child together against eternal law. His deviant genes and his status as an Eternal made him an outcast among both groups. His brother, Eros, also known as Star Fox, became an eternal hero with the power to manipulate emotions, representing everything Thanos was not: charming, beloved, and connected to life rather than death. The contrast between the two brothers highlighted Thanos' isolation and the path he chose. Thanos fought against nearly every major hero and team in the Marvel Universe over the decades. He battled the Avengers multiple times, fought Thor and the Asgardians, clashed with the Guardians of the Galaxy, confronted Adam Warlock repeatedly, and even faced cosmic beings far more powerful than himself. Despite being defeated many times, Thanos always returned, often stronger than before. His resurrection by death or his own cleverness ensured he could never truly stay dead for long. Every time he came back, he pursued new schemes for power and new attempts to win Death's affection, making him a constant threat to all existence. Thanos represented a unique type of villain in comics, one whose actions came from a twisted form of love and devotion rather than simple greed or hatred. He genuinely believed his horrific acts of genocide were necessary and even noble. He saw himself not as evil but as a force of nature, an agent of death itself, bringing inevitable cosmic balance to an overpopulated universe. This self-justification and philosophical complexity made him more terrifying than a simple villain who just wanted power. Thanos was convinced he was right, and no amount of defeat or evidence could change his mind. He was the mad titan who combined overwhelming power, supreme intelligence, and utter devotion to death into a force that threatened not just planets or galaxies, but the entire fabric of existence itself. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Magneto, Erich Lehnsherr. Magneto, Erich Lehnsherr. Magneto was born Max Eisenhardt in Germany during the 1920s, or early 1930s, to a Jewish family. When the Nazis rose to power, Max and his family suffered terrible persecution. They were forced into the Warsaw Ghetto and eventually sent to the Auschwitz concentration camp. Max watched his mother, father, and sister murdered by the Nazis. He survived Auschwitz by working in the camp's crematoriums, where he was forced to dispose of the bodies of other prisoners, including people he knew. The trauma of witnessing genocide and losing his entire family shaped everything Max would become. He was a child who experienced the absolute worst that humanity could inflict on people simply for being different, and this horror burned itself into his soul forever. After World War II ended and Max escaped the camps, he tried to build a normal life. He moved to Ukraine and married a woman named Magda. They settled in a small town called Vinnytsia and had a daughter together named Anya. Max worked as a carpenter and tried to forget the horrors he had survived. He wanted nothing more than peace and a quiet family life. But his mutant power over magnetism manifested during a moment of extreme stress. When his boss refused to pay him his wages, Max became angry and his powers activated accidentally, causing a fire. The townspeople, frightened by this display of supernatural ability, blamed Max for the fire. An angry mob gathered outside Max's home with torches and weapons. Magda escaped with Anya, but Max was beaten unconscious by the mob. When he woke up and saw his house burning, he saw his daughter Anya trapped inside, screaming for help behind a window. He tried to save her, but the mob held him back. Max watched helplessly as his daughter burned to death. The grief and rage Max felt in that moment was unbearable. His mutant power exploded outward in its full strength for the first time. He killed every single person in the mob, destroying them with his magnetic abilities. Magda witnessed this massacre and was terrified of what her husband had become. She fled from him that night, running away while Max was consumed by his vengeance. Max searched desperately for Magda, but never found her. Unknown to him, Magda was pregnant with twins, and eventually gave birth to a boy and girl named Pietro and Wanda before dying in Eastern Europe. Max had no idea these children existed. With his daughter dead and his wife gone, Max sought out a forger named Georg Odekirk and asked him to create a new identity. Odekirk created papers identifying Max as Erich Lenscher, a Sinti Romani Holocaust survivor. Max added Magnus as a middle name. This false identity allowed him to move forward without being connected to his past, though the memories never faded. Magnus traveled to Haifa, Israel, where he worked as a volunteer at a psychiatric hospital treating Holocaust survivors. It was there that he met Charles Xavier, a young telepath who was also working at the hospital. The two men became close friends, staying up late into the night debating philosophy and discussing the future of humanity. They talked about hypothetical situations involving mutants and how regular humans would react to people with supernatural powers. Neither revealed to the other that they themselves were mutants during these conversations. Magnus believed that humans would inevitably turn on mutants out of fear and hatred, just as the Nazis had turned on the Jews. Charles argued that humans and mutants could coexist peacefully through understanding and education. Their friendship was deep and genuine, built on mutual respect and shared intellectual curiosity. But their fundamental disagreement about humanity would eventually tear them apart. Everything changed when Baron Wolfgang von Strucker and the terrorist organization Hydra kidnapped a woman named Gabrielle Haller, who worked at the hospital. Magnus and Charles teamed up to rescue her, and during the battle they were forced to reveal their mutant powers to each other. Magnus used his magnetic abilities to fight Hydra soldiers while Charles used his telepathic powers. After they saved Gabrielle, Magnus found a cache of Nazi gold that Hydra had been guarding. Magnus realized that his idealistic friend Charles would never support the methods Magnus believed were necessary to protect mutants from human persecution. The two men parted ways, their friendship ending in Israel. Magnus took the gold to finance his future plans, while Charles remained committed to his dream of peaceful coexistence. Magnus adopted the name Magneto and began calling himself the Master of Magnetism. He vowed that mutants would never again suffer the way Jews had suffered in the Holocaust. He would ensure mutant survival by any means necessary, even if that meant war with humanity. Magneto possessed one of the most powerful mutant abilities ever recorded. His primary power was control over magnetism and all magnetic fields. He could manipulate any metal that contained iron or other magnetic properties, bending and shaping it to his will. He could lift massive objects weighing thousands of tons, including submarines, asteroids, and bridges. He could disassemble complex machinery in seconds or assemble it just as quickly. Magneto could also generate powerful electromagnetic force fields strong enough to withstand attacks from nuclear weapons and even briefly hold off the cosmic being Galactus. He could fly by manipulating Earth's magnetic field or by using the metal in his costume. He could shoot electromagnetic pulses that disabled electronic devices. Magneto's powers extended far beyond simple metal control. He could manipulate the iron in human blood, allowing him to control people's bodies or even reverse their blood flow to cause excruciating pain. He once ripped all the adamantium metal from Wolverine's skeleton in a brutal attack that nearly killed the X-Man. Magneto could also affect electromagnetic energy across the entire spectrum, including radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, and even gamma rays, though using these abilities exhausted him significantly. Beyond his powers, Magneto possessed a brilliant intellect. He was a genius in multiple scientific fields including physics, engineering, and genetics. He created advanced technology far beyond contemporary Earth science, including machines that could enhance mutant powers and devices that could detect mutants anywhere on the planet. He built entire space stations from scratch and designed complex defense systems. Magneto was also a master tactician and strategist, able to outthink opponents who were physically stronger than him. He was a natural-born leader who inspired fierce loyalty in his followers. He was trained in hand-to-hand combat, though he rarely needed to fight physically given his overwhelming powers. In modern X-Men comics, Magneto was officially classified as an Omega-level mutant, meaning the full extent of his powers could not be measured or calculated. He was limited only by his own will and imagination, making him one of the most dangerous beings in the entire Marvel Universe. Magneto first appeared as a villain attacking the United States military base Cape Citadel. He was driven off by Charles Xavier's new team of mutant students called the X-Men in their very first mission. Magneto created a headquarters called Asteroid M, a hollowed-out asteroid floating in Earth orbit that served as his base of operations. He then gathered together a group of mutants who were angry at humanity and disillusioned with peaceful coexistence. These mutants included a servile hunchback named Toad, who could leap great distances, a powerful mentalist named Mastermind, who could create illusions, and two young mutants named Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who possessed super speed and probability-altering powers, respectively. Unknown to Magneto at the time, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were actually his own children, the twins his wife Magda had been carrying when she fled from him years earlier. Magneto formed them into the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to fight for mutant supremacy against humanity. The Brotherhood became the X-Men's greatest enemies, battling them repeatedly throughout the 1,960 seconds. Quicksilver, whose real name was Pietro Maximoff, was reluctant to follow Magneto's plans of violence and murder. He only joined the Brotherhood to protect his sister Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, who felt she owed Magneto a debt for saving their lives. Pietro even secretly interfered with Magneto's plans to detonate nuclear weapons because he did not want to be responsible for mass murder. Eventually, both Pietro and Wanda abandoned the Brotherhood and joined the Avengers, becoming heroes under Captain America's leadership. Magneto later discovered they were his children and was briefly reunited with them, though their relationship remained complicated and painful. Magneto also had another daughter named Lorna Dane, who went by the code name Polaris and possessed magnetic powers similar to her father's, though he did not learn of her existence until much later. Magneto went through a significant character transformation starting in the 1,970 seconds when writer Chris Claremont took over the X-Men comics. Claremont revealed Magneto's backstory as a Holocaust survivor, adding tremendous depth and tragedy to the character. Instead of a simple villain who wanted world domination, Magneto became a complex figure whose extremism came from genuine trauma and a desperate desire to prevent another genocide. A pivotal moment occurred when Magneto attacked Kitty Pryde, a young Jewish member of the X-Men, with his powers. He stopped himself mid-attack when he realized he was about to kill a Jewish child, exactly the kind of person he claimed he was fighting to protect. Magneto was horrified to see that he had become like the Nazis who murdered his family, valuing his ideology more than innocent lives. He left the battlefield voluntarily, deeply shaken by this revelation. After the cosmic being called the Beyonder brought various heroes and villains to another world for his secret wars, Magneto found himself fighting alongside heroes like the X-Men and Captain America against other villains. This experience, combined with his growing doubts about his violent methods, led Magneto to attempt redemption. He voluntarily surrendered himself for trial by an international court to face justice for his past crimes. His old friend Gabrielle Haller served as his defense attorney. During the trial, terrorists called Fenris attacked the courtroom. An explosion nearly killed Charles Xavier, who was present to testify. Magneto saved Charles's life, catching his wheelchair-bound friend as he fell. With Charles gravely injured and unable to lead, he made a shocking decision. Charles Xavier entrusted Magneto with leadership of the X-Men and his school for young mutants. Magneto led the X-Men and the New Mutants for several years during the 1,980 seconds. He used the disguise name Michael Xavier, pretending to be Charles's cousin to avoid detection. This was a period of genuine heroism for Magneto, where he tried to honor Charles's dream of peaceful coexistence. He trained young mutants in the use of their powers and fought to protect both mutants and humans from various threats. He even stopped the young mutant Rachel Summers from killing a human who shot at her, telling her that murdering humans would only prove anti-mutant bigots right. Magneto formed genuine friendships with X-Men like Storm and Kitty Pryde. When Kitty took Magneto to visit the Holocaust Memorial, she was amazed to learn that he had saved many lives while imprisoned in Auschwitz. However, Magneto's time as a hero was constantly tested. Many humans refused to believe he had reformed, and other mutants questioned whether they should follow someone with such a violent history. Magneto eventually returned to his militant ways. He created a group of fanatical followers called the Acolytes, who worshipped him and believed mutants should rule over humanity. He established the space station Avalon as a haven for mutants who wanted to separate themselves completely from human society. Magneto repeatedly clashed with the X-Men over his increasingly extreme actions. The breaking point came during a storyline called Fatal Attractions. When the X-Men tried to stop Magneto's latest scheme, he retaliated brutally. Using his magnetic powers, Magneto forcibly ripped the adamantium metal coating from Wolverine's entire skeleton through his skin and body. The process was agonizingly painful and nearly killed Wolverine, who only survived because of his healing factor. This horrific act of violence was too much for Charles Xavier. The Professor had given Magneto chance after chance to change, forgiving him repeatedly and believing in his potential for good. But seeing Wolverine tortured like this pushed Charles past his limit. In retaliation, Professor X used his telepathic powers to shut down every mental process inside Magneto's mind, essentially destroying his consciousness and leaving him in a vegetative state. This terrible act of vengeance from the normally peaceful Xavier showed how deeply Magneto's betrayal had hurt him. The psychic connection formed when Xavier destroyed Magneto's mind had unexpected consequences. The darkest parts of both men's consciousnesses, all their anger and grief and hatred, merged together to create a new being called Onslaught. This psionic entity became one of the most dangerous threats the Marvel Universe ever faced, powerful enough to defeat the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. Onslaught nearly destroyed reality itself before finally being defeated. The creation of Onslaught showed how deeply connected Charles and Magneto truly were, even when they were enemies. Their minds and souls were linked in ways that went beyond simple friendship or rivalry. Magneto continued to oscillate between villain and anti-hero throughout the following decades. He briefly took control of the mutant nation of Genosha, attempting to create a homeland where mutants could live free from human persecution. 16 million mutants lived on Genosha at its height, but tragedy struck when Cassandra Nova, Charles Xavier's evil twin sister, sent an army of Sentinel robots to destroy Genosha. The attack killed nearly every mutant on the island, including Magneto, who was believed dead in the ruins. The Genoshan genocide was one of the worst atrocities ever committed against mutants, and Magneto's apparent death in it seemed fitting given how much he had fought to prevent exactly this kind of massacre. However, Magneto survived the attack and eventually returned, traumatized but alive. Magneto's philosophy made him one of the most morally complex characters in comics. He genuinely believed mutants represented the next stage of human evolution and that they were superior to baseline humans, whom he called Homo superior versus Homo sapiens. He thought peaceful coexistence was impossible because humanity would always hate and fear what was different, just as they had hated Jews, black people, and other minorities throughout history. Magneto saw himself as protecting mutants from inevitable genocide. He was willing to kill thousands or even millions of humans if he believed it would ensure mutant survival. Yet Magneto also had a code of honor. He opposed true Nazis like the Red Skull, burying him alive when he discovered the Skull was the same war criminal who served Adolf Hitler. Magneto never countenanced the kinds of barbaric atrocities the Nazis committed, despite his own brutal methods. He saw himself as a revolutionary fighting for his people's survival, not as a monster who enjoyed causing suffering. His relationship with Professor X remained the most important in his life. The two men represented opposite responses to persecution and trauma. Charles chose hope, believing in education and gradual change. Magneto chose militancy, believing that power and fear were the only things humans respected. Yet beneath their ideological war lay genuine love and friendship. They needed each other. Charles kept Magneto's better instincts alive and reminded him of the ideals he once believed in. Magneto challenged Charles' sometimes naive optimism and forced him to acknowledge the real dangers mutants faced. In various timelines and alternate realities, they worked together. In one reality called Age of Apocalypse, Charles died young, and Magneto honored his memory by founding the X-Men himself and fighting for Charles's dream. In another reality, Magneto even named his son Charles after his deceased friend. In more recent X-Men stories, Magneto and Professor X finally achieved a form of reconciliation. They founded the mutant nation of Krakoa together, setting aside their decades of conflict to create a true homeland for all mutants. For the first time, they weren't enemies or reluctant allies, but true partners working toward a shared goal. This represented growth for both men, showing that even after all the pain and betrayal, their friendship could endure. Magneto's journey from Holocaust victim to terrorist to hero to leader showed that people could change while still carrying their trauma with them. He never stopped being shaped by his experiences in Auschwitz, but he learned that his methods might not be the only way to protect the people he loved. Magneto stood as a testament to the moral complexity that made the X-Men franchise endure for over 60 years. He was neither purely villain nor purely hero. He was a man who suffered unimaginable horror as a child and spent his entire life trying to prevent it from happening again, even when his methods made him resemble the monsters he hated. He was a father who lost children to violence and found others he never knew existed. He was a friend who betrayed and was betrayed, yet whose friendship never truly died. He was the master of magnetism who could move mountains and destroy armies, yet whose greatest power might have been his ability to inspire both fear and hope in mutants who saw him as their protector. Magneto represented the question that defined the X-Men. When faced with hatred and persecution, should the oppressed fight back with violence or with peace? His answer was always clear, even when it cost him everything he loved. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Black Panther, T'Challa. Black Panther, T'Challa. T'Challa was born in the African nation of Wakanda to King T'Chaka, who was the Black Panther before him. His mother, Queen Nyami, died during childbirth. Growing up as a prince, T'Challa knew from a young age that he would one day need to lead his people and protect his country. His childhood was cut short when a criminal named Ulysses Klaue came to Wakanda seeking vibranium, a rare and powerful metal found only in his homeland. During this attack, Klaue killed T'Challa's father, leaving the young prince orphaned and forcing him to grow up faster than any child should have to. After his father's death, T'Challa left Wakanda to study at the best universities around the world. He traveled across the globe, learning from different cultures and gaining knowledge in physics, engineering, and countless other scientific fields. During these travels, he met Ororo Munroe, a young woman who would later become the superhero Storm. T'Challa was not just learning academic subjects during this time, he was also training his body and mind, preparing himself to become both a king and a warrior. When he finally returned to Wakanda, he did so in secret, ready to claim what was rightfully his. To become the Black Panther and King of Wakanda, T'Challa had to win a ritual combat challenge. At the time, his uncle Sion held the title of Black Panther after T'Chaka's death. T'Challa entered the challenge without revealing who he was and defeated his uncle in combat. When he took off his mask and showed everyone his true identity, the people of Wakanda were shocked at first, but then celebrated their new king. This moment marked the beginning of T'Challa's journey as both the protector and ruler of his nation. Wakanda itself is unlike any other country on Earth. While the rest of the world saw Africa as underdeveloped, Wakanda was secretly the most technologically advanced nation in existence. This incredible advancement came from one source, vibranium. Millions of years ago, a massive meteorite made of vibranium crashed into the land that would become Wakanda. This metal had unique properties that allowed it to absorb vibrations and kinetic energy. When the ancient tribes discovered this meteorite, they believed it was sent by the gods. They built their entire civilization around the Great Mound where the vibranium was found. The vibranium changed everything about Wakanda. It allowed them to develop technology far beyond what any other nation possessed. They created flying vehicles, advanced weapons, and medical technology that seemed like magic to outsiders. But the vibranium also caused problems. The radiation from the meteorite mutated some of the early tribesmen, turning them into dangerous creatures that the people called demon spirits. A tribal leader named Bashenga, who became the very first Black Panther, fought these demons and united the tribes into one nation. For generations afterward, Wakanda kept itself hidden from the world, pretending to be a poor third world country to protect their vibranium and their way of life from those who would try to steal it. The vibranium did not just affect Wakanda's technology, it also seeped into the soil and changed the plants that grew there. One of these plants became known as the heart-shaped herb, and it would become crucial to every Black Panther who came after Bashenga. The herb grew only in Wakanda because it needed the vibranium-enriched soil to develop its special properties. According to Wakandan legend, the panther goddess Bast gave the herb to the people as a gift, but the truth was that the vibranium radiation mutated the plant over thousands of years. The heart-shaped herb is what gives the Black Panther their enhanced abilities. When someone worthy consumes the herb in a sacred ceremony, it grants them superhuman strength, speed, agility, stamina, and durability. Their senses become incredibly sharp, allowing them to see in complete darkness, hear sounds from far away, and track people by scent alone. The herb also gives them an enhanced healing factor, helping them recover from injuries faster than normal humans. But the herb does not just grant physical powers. When consumed, it also allows the user to visit the ancestral plane, a spiritual realm where they can commune with all the past Black Panthers who came before them and receive guidance from their ancestors. Not everyone can take the heart-shaped herb and survive. In the comics, only those of royal blood or those deemed worthy can safely consume it. If someone unworthy tries to take the herb, it can poison them and cause death. This is why Eric Killmonger, one of T'Challa's greatest enemies, often tried to create synthetic versions of the herb so he could gain the Black Panther's powers without needing to be worthy. The herb is so important to Wakanda's power structure that in some stories, enemies have tried to destroy all the heart-shaped herbs to weaken the nation. Beyond his physical abilities from the heart-shaped herb, T'Challa is also considered one of the smartest people in the entire Marvel Universe. His intelligence rivals that of Reed Richards, Tony Stark, and other legendary geniuses. T'Challa has a photographic memory, meaning he can remember everything he sees and reads. He is a master physicist, engineer, and inventor who can create advanced technology and weapons. He can look at other people's inventions and figure out how they work, then improve upon them or recreate them himself. His genius is not limited to science either. T'Challa is also a master tactician and strategist, always thinking several steps ahead of his enemies and allies alike. T'Challa uses his intelligence in every aspect of his life. As a king, he must navigate complex political situations both within Wakanda and on the global stage. As a superhero and member of the Avengers, he must devise strategies to defeat villains and save the world. His combination of physical prowess from the heart-shaped herb and his extraordinary intellect makes him one of the most formidable heroes in existence. Captain America himself has said that T'Challa is one of the greatest fighters and strategists he has ever met. But being both King and Black Panther has never been easy for T'Challa. Throughout his time as ruler, he has faced constant challenges to his throne and his authority. The way Wakanda chooses its leaders creates ongoing tension. Every 5 years, there is a ritual tournament where any Wakandan of royal blood can challenge the current Black Panther for the throne through combat. This means T'Challa must always be ready to defend his position, and one mistake in battle could cost him everything. T'Challa has faced numerous challengers over the years. His greatest rival, Eric Killmonger, has repeatedly tried to take the throne. Killmonger was born in Wakanda, but grew up in America after his father was killed. He returned to Wakanda filled with hatred for T'Challa and everything the royal family represented. M'Baku, who leads the Jabari tribe and worships the white gorilla instead of the panther god, has also challenged T'Challa multiple times, believing the nation should return to more traditional ways and reject modern technology. Beyond physical challenges, T'Challa has struggled with the moral weight of leadership. In recent comic storylines, he created a secret network of Wakandan spies and assassins in other countries, operating without anyone's knowledge. When this was discovered, it destroyed the trust between T'Challa and his allies, including the Avengers. His own people began to question whether they could trust a king who would make such decisions in secret. This led to political uprisings and calls for democracy in Wakanda, with some citizens believing that an absolute monarchy was no longer the right system for their nation. T'Challa has also faced the impossible task of balancing his duties to Wakanda with his responsibilities as an Avenger. There have been times when what was best for Wakanda conflicted with what the Avengers needed him to do. During the Avengers vs. X-Men conflict, T'Challa fought against his own wife Storm because he believed it was necessary to protect his people. When Namor and the Phoenix-powered X-Men attacked Wakanda and nearly destroyed it, T'Challa declared the X-Men enemies of his nation, straining relationships that had taken years to build. In some storylines, the pressure became so great that T'Challa willingly gave up the throne. He has been exiled, overthrown, and has even voluntarily stepped down when he felt he was no longer fit to rule. Writers like Ta-Nehisi Coates have explored whether monarchy itself is the right system for Wakanda, with T'Challa sometimes agreeing to transform Wakanda into a constitutional democracy where he serves as a figurehead king rather than an absolute ruler. These stories show that even with all his power and intelligence, T'Challa struggles with self-doubt and the crushing weight of leadership. T'Challa's journey has never been about just being powerful or smart. It has been about learning what it truly means to lead a nation, to be a hero to the world, and to honor the legacy of all those who wore the Black Panther mantle before him. His story continues to explore the complex realities of power, responsibility, tradition, and progress. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown.